Do you want to start intuitive eating but you're worried about overindulging in delicious holiday food? Let's bust some myths and show you how to have a food guilt-free holiday season while still feeling nourished and balanced in your body. Hello, I'm Amanda. I'm a PCOS and non-diet dietitian, and I'm here to help you eat well naturally while finding food freedom even during the holiday season. So no matter what holiday that you celebrate, whether it's Thanksgiving, Diwali, Christmas, Hanukkah, Lunar New Year, food is a big part of all of these cultural holidays. And so it's natural if you have a tense relationship with food that you may feel some arising anxiety around how to control yourself over the holiday season, or the fear of overindulging on food and then feeling guilty afterwards. I want to share with you a client story that you might relate to. This client was feeling quite anxious because in previous Christmases, or leading up to Christmas, she would start restricting and start dieting and calorie counting because she knew that she would just overindulge and binge on sweets and all the holiday food. Then she'd start restricting and punishing herself again afterwards in the new year. And so even though she had this plan, she still felt that overwhelming sense of anxiety and guilt and shame around food and her body. And so even though she had started practicing intuitive eating, as Christmas was coming around, this looming feeling of all of the food anxieties was coming up again. But then in the new year, when we caught up again, she was like, Christmas went really well actually. I didn't restrict leading up to Christmas. I continued to eat normally and nourish myself with balanced meals. And for Christmas lunch, I enjoyed the feast. I didn't restrict myself at all, but I listened to my body and ate a little bit past the point of fullness because it's Christmas and there's all this delicious food, but I always knew this was available to me at any time, so I didn't need to overdo it. And so I didn't restrict, I didn't binge, I just ate normally, and it felt so good. It felt so different from all the other Christmases. And this is exactly what intuitive eating does. It normalizes your eating. It makes it so regular that you don't have these intense, heightened emotions around food and around eating, like anxiety and fear and overwhelmed and guilt and despair. It's just, oh, it's food. Oh, it's just another meal that I'm eating. Oh, it's just food that's nourishing me and making me feel good. You might get excited every so often when you have something super delicious or when you're anticipating something delicious, but it's not this ongoing roller coaster that takes up so much of your headspace and your energy that it distracts you from the enjoyment of life and the enjoyment of eating. So if you are wanting to have this more positive relationship with food and with your body, stick around because I'll debunk these myths around intuitive eating during the holiday season, and I'll also give you tips to enjoy your holiday food guilt-free. If you find value from this YouTube video, please subscribe, like, comment, and share with someone that you think this could also help. I would be very grateful. So the first myth is that it's all or nothing. You have to eat intuitively perfectly or there's no point at all. And so you're probably not going to be able to eat intuitively perfectly during the holiday season. So there's no point in starting at all. This is a big fat myth. The truth is that it's always an amazing time to start intuitive eating. Because intuitive eating isn't about eating perfectly or listening to your body perfectly. Intuitive eating is about removing the food rules that's creating the anxiety and guilt around food. It's about getting rid of the food police, eliminating all the restrictions and judgment around food and eating. And it's about reconnecting with your body and trusting your body to create a healthier way of eating for yourself. And this takes time, but when you are able to do this, and especially around the holidays, you're going to be able to enjoy your pavlova and your cakes and your cookies and chocolate without guilt. But also without that urge to binge, you have to have it all now because tomorrow or next week in New Year's, you're going to restrict again and try to eat good or eat perfectly. and you're going to feel more nourished and balanced and healthy in your body. Of course, if you've been dieting or restricting or following rigid food rules for a long time, letting go of all of this may feel scary. But in this video, I'm going to teach you how to eat intuitively over the holidays without losing control. And I'm going to give you practical steps that you can implement immediately in this video. The second myth is that intuitive eating is just eating when you're hungry and stopping when you're full. So although there are elements of listening to your hunger and fullness cues, this is not a rule. Diet culture loves to hijack everything and turn everything into another rigid rule-based diet. But intuitive eating is so flexible. You use your hunger and fullness as information to guide you on understanding what your body needs to feel in balance and to feel nourished. So if we look at the hunger and fullness scale, and I'll try to put this in the video, if not just look up hunger and fullness scale, you'll see a scale from 1 to 10, 1 being absolutely starving to the point that you feel ill, with 5 to 6 being neutral, and then 10 being so uncomfortably full that you feel sick. So on either ends are the extreme, and in the middle is the more neutral. So then 4 is slightly hungry, and then 7 is comfortably full. So we want to stay between 4 and 7 most of the time. That's where we feel okay. But sometimes we might stray on the outside. Sometimes we might overeat just a little bit because the feast is so delicious, or because we're on a tight schedule and we have back-to-back meetings for the next 6 hours and we're not going to get a food break, so we might overeat a little bit at the start so that we're not starving by the time we finish our meetings. And so it's not about perfectly always being between 4 and 7, but using that as a guide to be there most of the time, but knowing that sometimes you might deviate, and that's completely okay. So the action for you to implement immediately is to bringing more awareness to where you are on the hunger and fullness cues. Now, the third myth is that you'll overeat without food rules. Now, so many people, they're like, well, if I don't follow these food rules, how will I know what to eat and what will be good for my body, because I don't trust my body right now? And that makes complete sense. When you've been taught to distrust your body and you've been relying on food rules and restrictions for a long time, it can feel scary to just let go of it and trust your body. I'm going to give you a middle step, which is my 4 nutrition foundations. While you're learning to listen to your body and trust it again, these 4 nutrition foundations will help you, give you a bit more of a guide, a bit more of a structure to know how and what to eat to nourish your body. So the first nutrition foundation is eating enough and eating regularly. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and snacks in between. The second is to eat balanced meals. So having a protein, carb, fat, and fiber at every meal. The third is to eat extra nutritiously. So this is really dependent on your body, your health conditions, your schedule. If you have PCOS, I'd be looking at your root causes. This is very tailored to you. So it can be helpful to have a dietitian or a trusted health professional to give you guidance on the special nutrition things that you could do for your body. And the fourth is eating for joy and pleasure. So remembering that food is not just for fuel, but it's for enjoyment as well. So if you implement these 4 nutrition foundations, overeating will be a thing of the past. Binge eating will no longer exist in your life. So your action to implement depends on which step you need to work on the 4 nutrition foundations. And if you need support with any of these, this is where a non-diet intuitive eating dietitian can come in and really support you on that journey to healing your relationship with food and your body. Okay, let's get into the 4th myth, which is you just eat whatever your body wants. So this is such a big myth with intuitive eating, because this is really just like a surface level understanding of what intuitive eating is. And I think it comes from a misunderstanding of what intuition actually means. Intuition isn't whatever you hear first. What we hear first and what we hear the loudest is our ego. The ego is really loud and it's kind of overcompensating for its fear and insecurities. Whereas our intuition is actually really soft and quiet. It's that quiet confidence. And so intuitive eating isn't just about giving into every craving. Like, imagine eating just chocolate for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. How would you feel in your body? Probably not great, right? You'd probably feel ill, not because you're judging the food or yourself for eating this food, but you would actually physically, somatically in your body feel unwell. You wouldn't feel energized, you wouldn't feel nourished, you wouldn't feel thriving. That is your intuition. It being like, that actually doesn't feel that good. That's your intuition. And the other thing to think about here is it's looking at short-term mindset versus long-term mindset. If you've been dieting for a long time, you probably have a very short-term mindset with food. I'm going to eat this diet for X amount of time so I can lose X amount of weight. Or I'm going to cut out carbs until my willpower runs out. And so it's all very short-term. But if we have an intuitive eating mindset, the short term could be the somatic experience. Oh, I'm feeling hungry right now. Oh, I'm feeling quite full right now. Oh, this feels nourishing in my body. Oh, this doesn't feel nourishing in my body. So it's the real time communication from your body. But then there's also the long term. And this is what is often missing in diet culture and diets. The long-term mindset relates to your values and your goals. So your values are the guiding compass of who you want to be. So it could be intuition, it could be nourishment, it could be balance, it could be sustainability. Defining your values is so important, because if you don't define your values, society or external forces will impose their values on you. And then you will constantly have this internal conflict because you're trying to live up to these values that aren't yours. And so that might be thinness or external approval. So defining your values is very important. And I have a values workbook that you can actually download and define your own values so that you can gain clarity on them and live your life according to them. The other part of that is your goals, defining your goals. And I want you to think long term with this. If your goal is weight loss, why? What is it that you think that weight loss will bring you? Is it that you think weight loss will bring you regular periods or more energy or feeling more comfortable in your body or being able to live until you're 90 and play with your grandchildren? Look beyond the physical thing and look at the feeling that you want to feel, because often it's that feeling more than the actual thing. And then with intuitive eating, it's about finding that balance between the short-term and the long-term mindset. So what you feel in your body, your hunger and fullness cues, whether you feel satisfied or not, this is information that you can feed back into yourself and make better decisions that will align with your long-term goals. So your actionable step to implement today is to download the values workbook and define your own values. And the fifth myth is that it's impossible to eat intuitively around family pressures. And it makes complete sense to find it really challenging to trust your body and listen to it. Many of us know that when we're back in family environments, we can get triggered very easily and feel like we're 6 years old again when we had very little power and our parents imposed their values and their beliefs on us. Right now, if you don't have that self-trust, it's that sense of self-trust is going to be weak, and so comments and things that people say or do are going to feel personal, and you're going to take it as a reflection of yourself, and you're more likely to get triggered. Eventually, as you start trusting your body more through action and implementing and seeing positive results from these actions, you're going to have a stronger sense of self-trust, which is going to grow and grow and grow. And it's going to become a light that shines out of you. And any comments that come at you don't really matter anymore, because you feel so confident and so self-assured within yourself. And you'll realize that other people's comments about you or your body or your eating habits are just a reflection of their own beliefs and insecurities. And I am telling you this from experience. I used to get so triggered by my mom's and my sister's comments about my body. I remember when I was 17 and my sister would taunt me about being fat and being unhealthy and being obese and what that would mean, and I would die early, etc., etc. You know how teenagers can be. And that was a big factor of why I yo-yo dieted from 15 to 20. But then I remember last year when my mum bought me some pants and it was like extra small, and I was like, I'm not this small. And she was like, oh, are you that fat now? And I was like, what? Why? Like, why would you say that? Like to me, fat is a neutral descriptor now, but it felt like she intended to trigger something with that comment because she knows that that was a sore spot, you know, 8 years ago. But it didn't really affect me. I was like, okay, she's, you know, there's something going on with her around that, but it has nothing to do with me. And I have gained weight in the last year, and I'm like, cool, okay, that's fine. That's just my body. So if you want to feel more secure in yourself and more self-trust and self-confidence, intuitive eating will help a lot. But you can also actively work on neutralizing your triggers. So how you can do that? The first step is to identify your common triggers. So write down experiences in the past that have triggered you. Maybe your mom made a comment about your body or what you were eating, or you saw, you know, someone with a before and after weight loss transformation picture on Instagram. And then secondly, write down how you notice that you're triggered. The somatic experience. Is it a big ball of fire in your chest that rises up into your face? Is it a knot that gets stuck in your throat? What is it that tells you that you are triggered? This is how you're going to identify that you're triggered and that you need to do something about it to regulate yourself. The third step is to find nervous system regulation techniques that work for you. So this is going to be individualized. There's many different techniques. The first might be to remove yourself from the situation so that you can regulate yourself. Maybe deep breathing and breath work can help you. Maybe engaging in your senses to come back to your body. It really depends on what your response is and the technique that feels comfortable for you that you can do when you're feeling triggered. There's so many different techniques, so go and have a look. Or if you need support, this is where a health practitioner, a trauma-informed health practitioner can really help you. And if it's related to food stuff, that is where I can help you. And then the fourth step is to set boundaries. So whether that's communicating with your mom or your sister or your aunt to not comment on your body, you could say, please don't talk about my body or what I'm eating, otherwise I'm going to leave the dinner table. Or I'm practicing moving away from this dieting mindset and learning to trust my body. I am or I'm not open to discussing this right now. Or it could be, my weight is not up for discussion. Let's talk about wicked or whatever topic that you want to talk about. Or it could be a boundary with yourself, like I'm going to unfollow all these accounts that talk about weight loss transformations because I know that it's only giving a short-term snapshot, not the long-term picture. So these are the steps that you can take to identify your trigger and neutralize them so that you can build that self-confidence. So remembering that your triggers are actually a gift. They help you see where you can love yourself more, where you can strengthen your sense of self-worth. And people are put in our lives to trigger us so that we can learn this, so that we can grow from this. And when you learn this, you start to be grateful for all the triggers and all the people that trigger you. How wild is that? This can be challenging. And so if you would like that support, reaching out to a practitioner such as myself can be really helpful to help hold space for your emotions and for your triggers and everything that comes up with that, and to learn how to process your emotions and regulate your nervous system so that you can move past the trigger and even rewire your nervous system so that it feels safer in these situations and you feel more confident and in control. This work is really transformative. So those are the 5 myths and tips that you can take into your holiday season to start or continue intuitive eating and build that strong sense of self and body trust. Remember, it can take time to adjust to this, so go easy on yourself. The values that really come out for me with intuitive eating is self-compassion, curiosity, self-trust. And I want to say secondary is liberation and empowerment. I had a client who had been on every diet under the sun: intermittent fasting, keto, Atkins, calorie counting. And she was really nervous to let go of the food rules. And when she did, she went through a bit of a rebellion phase. It was like the teenager who finally didn't have the grips of their parents and would just start going wild. And so for 2 weeks, she binged on chocolate and cakes and ice cream, everything that she'd been restricting for a long time. But then after 2 weeks, she got bored. Her body got bored of all these really intensely sweet foods, intense tasting foods, and she started to crave a salad. And she came back and she was like, I can't believe it, but my body actually craved greens and a salad and something light and healthy. And after 6 months of learning to trust her body and practicing and implementing and taking actions to eat intuitively every day, she was like, I feel a love and a trust for my body that I've never felt before. And this naturally makes me want to eat better for my body. I never thought that this was possible, but it is. Another client of mine was really scared to let go of MyFitnessPal. She was like, if I don't count the calories, I don't know how I would function. And so we compromised and was like, okay, you continue counting calories, but implement these 4 nutrition foundations and start listening to your body's response to it. And then after a month, she was like, oh, I can't believe that I can hear my body and what it needs. I actually deleted MyFitnessPal now because I realized I don't need it. In fact, it was making me cling on to my perfectionism, and it was making me feel constantly anxious. Now that I'm noticing my body's hunger and fullness cues and how it feels, and I notice when I eat something balanced, it feels really nourished and my energy is stable and my mood feels really good. I'm starting to learn to trust my body. My body craves balance. I hope that this video has been helpful and that it empowers you to have a food guilt-free holiday season. If you need support, I'm here for you. I'll drop in the description all the ways that you can get in contact with me or work with me or download the free resources that will help you even further. Let me know in the comments which myth resonates with you most and which action that you're going to implement straight away today. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video with someone that you think it will help over this holiday season. Thank you so much for joining me for this video. We'll see you soon. Mwah.